Hello, everybody, and let me welcome Nathan Elberg. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Actually, you're back. You've been here on the show before. It was such a pleasure, and I really enjoy, your stories. And now you have something new for us. You have a new book that I had the privilege of actually starting to read. And I was just telling him before the show how he actually hooked me up on this at the first page. It is so amazing. But I'm going to let Nathan tell you all about it. And I urge you, please, you have to buy this book because this is amazing. Nathan, go for it. Go.
The novel Quantum Cannibals is about a teaching in the mystical Sefer Bahir, in which Amorai poses a question, where is paradise? If you want to know the answer to that question, you can study the Bahir, an obscure but important book of Kabbalah, or you can read my novel. In Quantum Cannibals, the answer is discovered by the hero while stranded in the Arctic, a land of vicious cold and blizzard. Note that I didn't say that paradise is in the Arctic. When Adam and Eve first lived in the Garden of Eden, it was warm enough that they didn't need any clothes. By contrast, in Quantum Cannibals, the main character discerns the answer to Amorai's question while dressed in layers of animal skins. Collectively, her people are known as the Ebers, an intelligent and creative people who've been exiled to the Arctic because of jealousy. You may recognize the resemblances between the word Eber and the word Ivri. It's not coincidental. Many of the characters have names from Tanakh or Talmud. Oznat, Pua, Zimri, Zeresh, Teku, but they don't necessarily behave in the same manner as their namesakes. There are also Jewish texts quoted in the novel. Verses from Hosea, a Gemara and Brachot, Sefer Yetzirah, which is the instruction manual for making a golem, and the Sfirot also play an important role. A famous incident from the Zohar is played out about a lady with no eyes. The characters in the novel present Jewish ideas. A strong person is one who controls his inclinations. A person who is kind when it's time to be cruel will be cruel when it's time to be kind. The main character of the novel was inspired by an actual 16th century Rosh Yeshiva in Mosul, Kurdistan, who was addressed as master, rabbi, teacher. I first learned about this great scholar and Kabbalist in the folklore course at university. A story teaches. Asenath was a great sage and a woman learned in Torah. She was an attractive woman. One day when she went up to the roof to spread out her laundry to dry, a stranger desired her and snuck up onto her roof. She immediately pronounced holy names, and as a result, the attacker remained hanging on the beams of the roof, unable to move. This incident is retold in Quantum Cannibals, only I said it in the Bronze Age in what we now refer to as Mesopotamia. For both the historical figure and my adaptation of her, Asenath's marriage contract forbade her husband from asking her to do any housework. She was too great a scholar for such mundane activities. There's no denying the holiness of the historical Asenath Barzani. She was often referred to as Tanait, a female equivalent of a sage of the Mishnah. She was revered by the Muslim Kurds as well as Jews. It's easy to say that Quantum Cannibals is a Jewish book, but the novel's not overtly so. There are other cultures, peoples, ways of life depicted. The cannibalism is adapted from the practice of a society in Papua New Guinea. An Aztec war god plays an important role. A transsexual shaman is based on the Aboriginal Siberian culture. The villain is a mashup of US President Andrew Jackson, Che Guevara, Mao Zedong, and Mohammed.
Wow.
There's Quantum Science, Sex and Violence, and Quantum Cannibals. It's for adult readers. I started off by talking about Amare's question about paradise. It has a beautiful answer and it's precious knowledge. Once you know it, you will do well to hold it close to your heart. I encourage everybody to learn it by reading Quantum Cannibals, or if you're more ambitious, study the Sefer Bahir.
Wow. Wow. First of all, how long did it take you to write this book? That's
About 2
fascinating.
years.
That's it. That seems so short. Wow. There's so much
It
research.
came together from many pieces.
Yeah, this is amazing. Nathan, how did you come up with this idea to write this kind of book? And then I'm going to ask you, where did you get the name? How did you come up with the name for that book? That is also amazing.
Well, it was a story about Osnat Barzani that really inspired me, that got me going. But then I didn't just want to retell the historical figure story, because I didn't think I could do her justice, and there really wasn't enough material available. And I'm a fan of science fiction and fantasy, so I figured I would add those elements.
It's very not strange, but it's not. We don't hear about it often. A woman, a Tanachit, especially in the 1600. I mean, now we hear a little bit, Rabbanit here, Rabbanit there, but it wasn't very, not known. It wasn't accepted. Am I wrong? But how did it happen? She was there in Kurdistan.
Was a native of Kurdistan.
Right.
Her father was a leading rabbi, and he taught her all that he knew. And I guess that people at that time weren't so hung up about male and female,
Yeah.
that they gave her the title that she earned based on her knowledge, based on her learning.
So you based the main character on Osnat?
Right. And I had her in 2 different eras. I had her in the Bronze Age, and I had a Gilgul, a reincarnation of her, in some unspecified modern age, exiled to the Arctic.
So is it a book about like going back and forth, future and past, and is this what I have to look forward reading this amazing book?
Well, the book is set in 3 separate eras. There's really 3 storylines, and there's a bit of an individual going from one era to the other, but what you experience mostly is reincarnations, Gilgulim, of these people. So let's say the future Osnat meets her ancestor from the Bronze Age, and the future Osnat is a quantum scientist.
What an imagination, Nathan. This is like, you really need an imagination to go back to those, ancient civilization.
Well, there are a lot of things that interest me. One of the things that started me off as well, that got the Bronze Age timeline started, was back in Babel, when the Jews were exiled in Babylonia at the time of the Mishnah and the Talmud. A lot of Jews made a living by inscribing clay bowls to protect against shadim, to protect against demons. And they were hired by the...
Hold on. Can you elaborate on that story? You were talking about the demons. Can you elaborate on that story?
Well, back in ancient Babylonia, people didn't know about bacteria and viruses and many things, and demons were a handy explanation to explain things that were going wrong.
So like today, if the COVID-19 happened then, she would be considered as a devil.
There probably were things like COVID-19 going on.
I'm sure.
Lots of it, with a lot worse consequences, because people didn't know how to protect themselves. But what did happen was the non-Jewish population of the area hired Jews to engrave these clay bowls with mystical inscriptions that would keep the demons away. If you go to many antiquities shops in Jerusalem, you'll find the actual clay bowls for sale. You can pick them up for a couple of $100. But these were things that people bought as amulets. They're sort of like mezuzahs are treated by some Jews today.
So just a question, why the non-Jews would ask the Jews to write it? Like we have a special power? Like why?
I can't really answer that.
Okay.
Partly because the Jewish population was more literate, and the idea of Jews having special connections, special powers, has been rife throughout history.
That's true. So we know about Osnat. There's always, is it also a kind of a love story, or it's not?
There is a love story in there. Okay. It's not
I'm
the
a romantic
dominant
at heart. I need to know there's a love story. Okay, there is.
Where a character from a postmodern era goes and proposes to someone 5,000 years in the past. And they arrange their marriage, which actually gets fulfilled.
Wow. Wow, this is like, okay. I can't wait to start reading the book. So let me ask you, I heard you say that this is really not a Jewish book. But is it?
It's both. It is and it isn't. There's many Jewish elements. A lot of my Jewish knowledge, a lot of my Jewish learning went into it. And as I mentioned, the main theme of the book is a question from a book of Kabbalah. But none of it is overt unless you're looking for it.
Okay.
And there are many other cultures that are brought in it as well. For example, the cannibalism aspect of it, even though I place it in the Arctic, comes from Papua New Guinea, which is off the coast of Australia, and is based on an anthropological description of these people's cannibalism, and actually taking names by killing people and cutting off their head. And
you just took the next question I was going to ask you, because you talk about it in the first page, and I found it like fascinating. Like, in order for a newborn to have a name, they have to kill somebody else, but as long as it's not a relative, right?
Makes population growth kind of difficult, but it was an actual practice.
Wow.
In Papua New Guinea. Now they've renounced cannibalism, and most of them are Catholic or Roman Catholic, and they're trying to follow that religion. However, a problem in at least part of Papua New Guinea is that it's part of Indonesia, and the Indonesian government is exploiting the region for its minerals and for its land, and sending in Indonesians who are Muslim, who don't like having any other religions around. So at first, the Papua New Guinea people were making life very difficult for themselves. And as they improved, as they advanced, the Indonesians came in and started making life quite horrible for them. It's a real occupation.
Wow. So I guess that's where the name of the book comes from, Quantum Cannibalism. But why? Tell me, why did you name the book such a strong name?
Well, cannibalism is a big aspect of it. It's this cannibalism that sets off Osnat in the part of the book that you're reading now. And she happens to be a quantum biologist, a brilliant quantum biologist who's achieved many things. And people are jealous of her. The government is jealous of her. They're all trying to exploit her. And the easiest thing to do is to get rid of her. And they use a demonic device to send her and her people up to the Arctic. behind some radiation belts, which sprang them there.
Wow, this is really going all, like really going over centuries. It's just like amazing. Like, and it only took you 2 years to write. Like, this is amazing. I know some people spend years writing books. And
Well, I've got to tell you, from the time I started writing till the time it was published was a long, long time, because when I say 2 years, I mean the initial draft.
that's
But
okay,
then
yeah.
there was editing and revisions, and then I had to cut it down. When I first wrote the book, it was 250,000 words, whereas novels, regular novels, can range anywhere between 50 and 100,000 words. And I
Okay.
managed to cut this down to 150,000.
It was
It's
difficult.
hopefully the first in the series, but I have not yet advanced too far in the next book.
Wow. So tell me about some of the other characters.
Okay. There's Wendy, who doesn't realize it, but she's become the incarnation of an Aztec war god. And she eats the hearts of her enemies.
Oh, God.
And she's a close friend and a protector of Oznat.
So, wow, okay.
There's Tammy, who's a policewoman who can make any of her body fluids toxic. She can kill someone by spitting on them. They
Just
would
like,
immediately.
like we have superheroes.
There's a natural explanation for her becoming this way, and it happened to her ancestor 5,000 years ago in the Bronze Age timeline of the book, and we explain it, how she became that.
Okay.
There's Saima, who's vaguely modeled after the sage of the Mishnah, Shimon Bar Yochai. I have him as, in one timeline, he's Oznat's father. In another timeline, he's her nephew. And another one, he's her son.
Wow.
But these are all different incarnations of the same soul.
Wow. So I guess does one have to believe, like when one reads your book, does one have to believe in reincarnation, you know, and what happens to the soul in order to really get into the book? Is it for anybody?
Anybody can read it. If you come into it not believing in reincarnation,
Right.
then you just have to read it as fiction. This isn't supposed to be a presentation of facts, but that's the case for all science fiction and fantasy. It's fantasy, it's fiction. You don't have to take it literally. I do not believe in reincarnation, but I still wrote a book where it's taken as a given.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always think about, like, you know, I mean, reincarnation has been in I guess our life, hearing about it always, and I always wonder, it's got to be something. Where do we go? Where does it end with that? Like, got to be something. So I mean, I'm like 50-50. I don't know. It's
Well,
something I
is there
don't
really
know.
something, or are we just
We don't know.
inventing something to comfort ourselves?
I don't know.
That it isn't finally the end.
So, you know, so then we get into that, you know, question is, then what's our purpose? What's our purpose here if this is it? You know, but I always say, we don't know because nobody ever came back to tell us.
That's exactly it.
But it's got to be something. Otherwise, what is the purpose of us, you know, living our, you know, whatever existence, you know, years of existence we have, and then poof, we're gone? It's got to be a person. It's got to be something. But you're right. Maybe just to make ourselves, you know, believe that there is something. I don't know. I mean, certainly don't have the answer for that. But what are your thoughts?
There are so many approaches to the question of what our purpose is. If you speak to an observant Jew, you'll get the answer to do Torah and mitzvot.
Yeah.
If you ask another person, it's to be kind. Another person, it's to have money. If you look at the book Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, you'll be totally confused because everything that you do is described as vanity of vanities. So I'm not going to try and answer that for people directly, but I think that if they would read the book, they would get some insights as to what's to be accomplished.
Well, I'm, for one, looking forward to continue reading the book. And I also want to say that, I mean, from the first page, I can see you write so beautiful. It's like your description is like, you got me into that, era in like a second. And that is amazing, really is. And I'm not just giving you a compliment just because. It's from my heart, honest to God. It's an amazing book. So why don't you tell everybody where they can get your book?
Book is available from all of the mainstream booksellers online, from Amazon, from Barnes & Noble, from Indigo. You can order it online from those stores. You can get it in ebook, or you can get it in paperback.
Awesome. So tell me, when is the next book? Have you started the next book?
Started it, but I don't want to give you a timeline on it because it undoubtedly will be wrong. I want to make a note. You complimented my writing, and I appreciate that.
It's beautiful.
I want to mention that I'm not sure about reincarnation, but it's got something to do with genetics, because my father was a renowned Yiddish novelist who toured and lectured around the world. And my mother was a translator, translating books from Yiddish to English. So I must have some writing genes that enable me to work.
It really is very well. I mean, I haven't finished the book. I just started it, but I could already see it's like very beautiful, beautifully written. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us again. And since you started writing a new book, you have to come back when it's done, and tell us all about it. And really, I urge each one of you to order his book. You'll get so much out of it, and you'll enjoy a beautiful book. And it really is. Nathan, thank you so much for being with us, and good luck.
Pleasure.
Good luck writing the next novel. And I'll see you again when you finish it. Thank you so much.
Forward to it.
Thank you. Hi, Jack.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome again to our show. How you doing?
Okay, for old man, I'm pretty good. I just had my 90th Saturday.
Yeah, you're not an old man. It's as young as you feel.
Oh,
That's what it is.
for my
So
age,
the last time
I'm
you
doing pretty good at the moment. Thank you.
Perfect. The last time you were on our show, we talked about your time in the Holocaust. So, and then we didn't have time to tell your other amazing story, but they're both amazing story. But your other story is how you found family after over 70 years that you thought you have no family. So I want you to tell us this amazing story. What happened that you lost family and how you found it?
Well, as I mentioned before, my wife and I, we went to Israel twice before, right after the 73 war, after the Yom Kippur War. And we went to look for relatives at the Holocaust Center there. And I gave all the information. There was no sign of any relatives survived. And we kept my daughters, we always checked to see if anybody survived, and never, there was always negative answer, no.
Oh.
And my daughter's husband alone, he was born in Israel, and he's got relatives, they're cousins. And once Carol mentioned that there was a Steinmetz, you know, in the information that she was looking to see if they could find out if perhaps it's one of the relatives of Hoffman. And there was a phone number there. She phoned up the phone number and they said, yes, there was a Steinmetz there, but they moved from there. They're no longer there. But she didn't give up. And she went down in person. It was in Modini Lit, I think. And she went to that place where she phoned, and somebody there said they knew them and they had a phone number of where they moved to. And so she followed up and went, and that's how we found out that I have cousins there, that my father's brother had 2 daughters and a son, and they live in Israel.
Wow. All 3 of them survived.
That's right. And
Wow.
they also were looking for survivors. As a matter of fact, they had me listed that they found out that I died in Auschwitz, in Birkenau.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you really, you almost did. You were saved. It was a miracle how you were saved.
Well, that was, I still can't believe that I survived that day on Yom Kippur Day, and I was already undressed to go into crematorium.
I know.
I still find it hard to believe.
It's amazing. Amazing miracle. So,
anyway, she gave the relatives our phone number, and they phoned and we talked, and they wanted us to go to visit. Of course, I wanted very much to go, but unfortunately, at that point, I wasn't able financially to travel. And the friends and relatives.
Sorry, Jack. Jack, you were living in Canada at that time, correct?
Oh yeah, here in Toronto.
Okay, you were living in Toronto. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here in Toronto ever since I came to Canada in 1947.
Okay.
And anyway, they insisted that we have to go, and they did a drive, and they got us a ticket to go to Israel. And it was just a miracle when El Al, of course, we bought a ticket from El Al. When they found out about that I'm going to Israel in the story, they spoke, they called up and spoke to my daughter. They said they were going to offer a ticket to us, but we already bought the ticket. So they upgraded us to a business class.
Nice.
And so we were treated very nicely, brought up to the front, met the pilot and the crew there. And it was an unbelievable trip to Israel. And then this Susie that found the relatives, she waited for us at the airport in Tel Aviv and drove us to her. We stayed with her for a few days. And then all the relatives, they wanted us to go to be with them, of course. And we split up, you know, some place we stayed for a while on Blanc with one, and then the other. And the first Shabbat, they rented rooms for all of us, for them and for us, in a hotel there near a synagogue, Bet Knesset. And we went on Shabbat to there, and then there was a big dining room there, and we had a meal after the service. All the relatives were there.
But Jack, I'd like to go back to the moment you've actually met your cousins that you didn't know existed. I mean, you know they existed, but you thought, you know, after so many, like over 70 years, you didn't think you had a family. What was it like to actually, meet and touch and hug
It,
this,
it,
this family?
it was very emotional. And we, of course, exchanged information about our parents and her parents, and how they also said that they were looking for. They knew that we lived in where we lived, and they knew that I existed, and somehow I was listed as that I died in Birkenau. So everybody thought it was just a miracle from God that we found that we were able to finally to find each other. And we were all very happy. They took us, of course, to their place, and we went visiting. And they took us out to Yad Vashem too. We went there. And oh, that is another unusual thing. They made an appointment at Yad Vashem that we're going to have a guide take us around. And for some reason, that guide, I don't know, got sick or somebody couldn't come. And the one in charge of the adjusting, for the last minute, she had somebody that she knew very well but was off, asked him to come in that day because we were, from
Right.
Toronto, and we had an appointment, and that she hasn't got nobody to care. So he agreed to come in that day, which he wasn't supposed to work. And his name was Adler. And my wife's maiden name was Adler. Can you imagine how we felt? What a surprise that was. That here was a guy, he wasn't scheduled to be there. They called him in almost like an emergency meeting, and his name was Adler, and he was the one that took us around.
Well, in life, I believe nothing happens, without a reason. It doesn't just happen. There's got a reason.
The reason we were so, my wife, of course, died the winter before in December here in Toronto. She was in a home for a few months, a long-term care home. And here, her maiden name was Adler, and there's a guy that takes us around Yad Vashem named Adler.
Wow.
So that was a sign that she was with us.
Yeah, it's amazing. You have an amazing story, and there's got to be a reason why, you survived. But you did. So Jack, tell me, your family in Israel that you've, got reunited. Are you still in touch with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we talk by phone sometimes and by email.
That's
we are
nice.
Very much in touch.
That's nice. Do you ever think you'll go back to Israel? But not now. I mean, we have COVID-19 now. Nobody. It's not a great time to go anywhere.
I would love to go back, but I don't think so. My age now, as I say, I just turned 91, and.
But you're young as you feel, Jack. You're so young. Don't think about that.
Well, I still go to Bet Knesset.
There you go.
We are open on Saturday at our show, and as a matter of fact, this Saturday I did the maftir because it was my birthday. But
all right, happy birthday! Wow.
And
sorry, I didn't get it. How old are you now? You're 91.
91.
91. You're still young. 91, young. No. Come on.
And we have also a minyan on Zoom for the show from home every morning and night.
Nice. And so you're pretty busy.
Yeah, and there's two of us that lead the service. I was on the board in our show too, and so every morning and night I lead one of the services.
Awesome, Jack. What an interesting life you have. You're an amazing guy. You know, such young spirit, and I know you'll live on for many, many more years to come. So don't even think about that. And really, like your story is amazing. I wish you so much health. I wish you everything that life can give you, and
Thank you.
you still have many, many more things to do.
Thank you very much. I
do.
just ask Hashem that as long as I'm mobile and I'm healthy, that's fine. If not, I would like him to take me.
Oh, don't say that. Don't talk like that.
No, I've lived considering what at 16 and a half, I was at that time when I was already undressed in the crematorium. So I'm still here. I'm satisfied. I've got a beautiful family. Thank God. I have 2 daughters and a grandson. And I'm very
Jack, you still have a lot to do.
I'm very grateful to Hashem that he let me stay this long.
You still have a lot of things to do. Your time is not up. I wish you all the best. I really do.
You, and I wish you all, and I wish that Israel should have peace and everybody should be healthy.
Amen. From your words to God's ears. Amen. Be well, and I'm sure I'll see you again. Thank you so much for being with us and telling us your story.
Thank you very much.
And I'm happy that you have a family.
Yes,
that's
so
wonderful. Thank you, Jack.
Bye-bye.
I hope you guys, at home enjoyed, our stories, with Jack and Nathan. And I hope to see you again next week.